Good morning. This is episode 30. My name is Jen Steltzer, and I'm the Community Programs Manager at EnviroCentre. Today, we're pleased to be joined by Ottawa's Capital Ward City Councillor Shawn Menard. Councillor Menard is Vice Chair of the Environmental Protection, Water and Waste Management Committee and also sits as a member of the Transportation Committee. Last April, he brought forward a motion declaring a climate change emergency in Ottawa, which was subsequently passed by City Council and brings with it many important guidelines and principles to address the challenges we face. Councillor Menard, you have focused on various environmental projects since being elected in 2018 and have voiced your concerns in a recently released Ottawa Citizen article, 10 Ways the City of Ottawa's Budget Needs to Change. Many of those concerns are related to protecting the environment and fighting climate change. Though the budget was approved last week and you did vote against it, we want to keep the conversation about climate action moving forward. So we have 5 questions to ask you today.
I do have some sleepless nights these days, to be honest with you, or going to bed later than I should, and my mind is often racing around the problems within the city. And one of them certainly is climate change, and it's the biggest problem we face. It's going to alter the way we live and really affect the most vulnerable people first in our city. And so it presents, stark choices and opportunities, and the decisions we make now are going to affect us for many, many years to come. And so what really keeps me up is the knowledge we could be doing so much more than we are choosing to do at this point. We have advanced the file quite a lot in terms of our planning, but it's those actions that need to follow. And so when you talk about things like land use and infrastructure, the vehicles we buy and our social support systems, the effects on those areas will continue to ripple out in the future. In Ottawa, the largest manifestation of climate change is flooding. And so we know we need to not just mitigate, but adapt to what will inevitably be more flooding in our city. And so we need bold leadership. We see it in other cities, or with Vancouver's Greenest City Action Plan, and Montreal, which has just released its plan calling for bold action around vehicles within their core. And as you know, we've declared a climate emergency as well, and have net zero targets by 2050. But we really need to streamline a climate lens through all of our decision making at an operational level, and that's the part that is so missing right now. We're not business as usual, but we're acting like it in some departments. So all departments, including our transit folks, transportation folks, they need to start to adapt to this as well, and really make sure that they're leading on that call for change. We don't have that right now. No, I don't think it even takes a magic wand. I think there's been such great books written, there's been such fantastic policy written on this already, that the solution is in front of us, and it's buildings and transportation. Those are the top 2 sources of emissions in Ottawa. And so investing in building retrofits, making sure that we've got more efficient HVAC system, alternative forms of power generation. These things reduce our emissions and they save us money. And so recently I brought forward a motion that would look at investing in these things to save the municipality funds while also drastically reducing our emissions. And the more we can induce our activities, and I've written about this, but things like walking and biking and alternative forms of transportation, the more the city actually saves. It costs a lot of money for us to have a car-centric city, to the municipality as well, not just the individual. And so as we've seen with things like the Bank Street Bridge, I had put up pylons there over this past summer and spring and fall, and it really induced more people to enjoy that ride. Kids were riding their bikes on there. You would have never seen that before. But because we had that safer space created, which was very, very cheap, I think I spent $5,000 on the pylons, which we purchased. It did that. And so we need to be moving on things like the widening of our roads, Strandherd Road, the widening of roads directly beside our transit system, as we just approved in this last budget. That is going in the opposite direction. Really is political will at this point, and elected officials that are going to place this as their #1 objective. Several of them can talk about it, but we don't see that action following through. And so Ottawa, again, has approved another large expansion of an urban boundary, which expands roads. It moves us out in terms of homes on the periphery. It's much harder in terms of providing services, and again, harms our environment. And so, but what was in the way with that discussion was really developers were very much in favor of pushing forward and expanding that urban boundary. There was a lot of money tied up in municipal elections when it comes to developer funding. Many candidates are funded heavily by developers. And so part of that certainly plays a role. And I think some of it is our senior staff as well, adjusting to, I guess, a new generation that cares about this issue and knows that we're going to be facing it much more than an earlier generation did, and that they're just catching up, I think, to that point. So we, you know, that is really what's in the way, in my view, is we're not catching up with the times and what people want, and politicians haven't caught up yet either. So we need that leading edge curve to start to shift. In the last couple of years, we have seen an incredible outpouring of support that has really urged the city to take climate action more seriously. That public pressure is leading to change. With the declaration of climate emergency, we've seen it on other issues as well, in the wake of Black Lives Matter and you know, the acquittal of an officer in Ottawa, the death of Abdirahman Abdi. Many groups in the city are calling for you know, different models to deal with systemic issues, and this is certainly one of them in climate change. And so, you know, many people are now showing up to City Hall or zooming in, giving delegations, marching in the streets. We saw that recently. So I think, you know, that political accountability will come not just between elections, but at elections as well. And so I urge everyone that is in this space, get involved in the 2022 election. Go work for a candidate, and don't just say, oh, this candidate filled out this survey this way, so they might be good. Go work on the ground for somebody. Knock doors, and make sure you get your voice heard that way. That is what will start to change the city when it comes to this as a huge priority. Is getting some more people elected that care about this project. So that's the biggest thing I think I could suggest to do. I would like to see a more caring city, and compassionate city, and creative one, and one that is dense at its core, that invests in the urban area, in the core area, and doesn't let that slide, that is not so controlled by developer influence, that we work together to make sure our buildings are more efficient. You know, I see one where it's not so car centric, much more able to make trips without a personal vehicle, really utilizing the LRT and the modal share that helps you get to those nodes and corridors. It's really around new urbanism. And when I ran my campaign, I talked about that idea a lot. And that is the type of city that I think will propel us forward with you know, creative urban spaces, small businesses that can flourish, and not such a corporate agenda that we've been seeing, unfortunately, with the signing of, you know, a lot of private partnerships that haven't panned out for us very well. So I think we've got a bright future ahead, but only if we start to shift, and I think that shift is on. So.
Yeah, I think so too. So thanks for joining us today and sharing all this great thoughts and information and inspiration. Before we sign off, we always ask our guests to share one last interesting Enviro fact to ponder. And here's what Councillor Menard wanted you to know. In total, the community of Ottawa at large produces 5,945,000 tons of CO2 equivalent GHGs. Well, that corporation, that's the city itself, accounts for less than 5% of that total community GHG emissions. The Federation of Canadian Municipalities estimates that municipal policies and decisions influence over half the sources of GHG emissions in our communities. I hope this conversation inspired you today, and I hope you will pay attention and get involved in your communities. Municipal action seriously matters when it comes to our future. And again, thank you so much for joining us today, Councillor Menard, and keep up the great work. And we look forward to following your progress in 2021 as well. Thanks again, everyone.
Thank you,
this
Jen.
was EnviroCentre's Green Room. Bye.
Bye-bye.